What's up, everyone? Tag a friend and let them know we're about to get into it.
Welcome to the SpeakHer Podcast with your host, Camille Essick, the podcast where creators and innovators connect. Let's get started.
The world can be a circus, ringling, watching the world spinning around, dizzy. This is the place to excel, sit down, a place to listen, a place to take in. You too can come on in, a place to be heard.
Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm your co-host Jonathan. Camille will be here shortly. Before we begin, be sure to hit that notification bell and subscribe.
Keep the SpeakHer Podcast ad-free. Scan the QR code and buy me a coffee. Your support keeps us ad-free as we continue to bring you conversations impacting the community and the culture.
It's the SpeakHer Podcast. Can we be your ear?
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the show. Please share this
Derek
and tag a friend.
Let's welcome
to
tonight's
hear this.
Brian's.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back. This is Camille Essick. I'm host of the SpeakHer Podcast. This is the podcast where innovators and critics connect. What I need you to do right now is hit that notification bell and subscribe. We are across all various platforms, such as iHeartRadio, Spotify, and Pandora. Last weekend, I guess we had on Adelia Johnson. She joined me as we had our 185th streaming episode. That was major. And then we've also hit another major milestone with the podcast as well. And I want to shout out a couple of cities. Shout out to the listeners. I know a lot of larger markets always get shouted out, such as like LA, DC, Chicago. But we also want to thank people listening in spaces like Florence, South Carolina, Fresno, California, Hanford, California as well. And just thank you everyone just for supporting me throughout this podcast journey. So without further ado, my brother and friend is back. He is just like the ultimate brand strategist. You may see him on social media. I love his wisdom corner, rules of Ross. You definitely need to check that out. You can even do some Throwback Thursday, and I keep trying to get on him about it, but just doing the combos and collabs, that was such a time and just great conversations. So without further ado, we want to welcome back Derek G. Ross back to the show.
Hey, listen, come on, round of applause.
We try to make everyone feel welcome here. So thank you, Derek, for joining me. How are you doing?
I am well. I am taking it one day at a time. You know, when people ask that question, I try not to just give the general response anymore. I try to think about like, okay, how am I truly feeling? So a little bit tired, got a lot going on, but grateful, nonetheless. And so I try to stay in that space, even with a lot of things going on, try to find the gratitude in the moments and where we are. So, yeah.
And before we hop into everything, how do you manage that? Because I know like with social media right now, there's a lot going on. But how are you doing in managing those spaces when you may not feel 100%? You're working through it, but how do you manage those times and spaces and chapters in your life?
I mute. So I don't get on social. I already don't follow certain things. Like I don't watch the news much. Like I'll check in when I need to, but I know my capacity. And so when I get to a certain point, I'm like, all right, I gotta take a step back. I'll catch up on whatever I need to catch up on. But I've become more attuned to kind of like my mental health and how that affects me and how that makes me show up in different spaces. Right. Sometimes if I'm overwhelmed, then that overwhelm can trickle into other areas that are not deserving of my overwhelm. And so I try to take a step back and let me deal with it first and make sure that it does not filter into other places or on people who are undeserving of that angst, that stress, or just that reaction. Sometimes we can just be reactionary. And so I just take a step back. I focus on me. Been doing some journaling, doing some shadow journaling, been talking to my therapist. I have my therapist sessions. Yes, that's a must.
Yeah.
That is a must. But yeah,
what is shadow journaling? What is that?
So I got this journal at the store, but it really talks about dealing with the inner person. And so it's like a lot of prompts, and it deals with the subconscious, helps you to think more internally, inwardly around certain things, how you're feeling. And so it's like the shadow of the person. So the piece that we don't see, which is that internal piece. And so it's actually titled like a shadow journal. So I just really started it. And like the first part of it has you really doing, it's like a 5 or 6 questions, deep questions of like internal self-reflection around certain things. And so just been really making myself sit still and focus in and write, instead of, nowadays we type everything, but actually the feeling of writing my thoughts out and feeling each word as I'm writing it intentionally. So yeah.
I like that. I journal, and I've been journaling since I was probably 14 or 15. And like you, I know some people like to type things out, but I love the pen and paper. There's such an emotion behind it. And like you said, you do feel the words when you actually have to write them. And one of the
Mhm.
things I've realized in this season, and you know me offline, just going so much on top of dealing with life and other things, and just realizing, I had some depletion in some areas,
Mm.
and so being more intentional about scheduling social media, and of course, on this end with podcasting, I tend to keep my ear to the ground, so to say, as far as with the news and what's happening around, just because laws literally can wake up and something has changed or been
Yeah.
dismantled. But I found myself in the last couple months saying, not today. I'll catch up,
Mhm.
on a real like Aaron Paraness, I'll catch up with him. You could 2 or 3 scrolls and you're pretty much up to date, or maybe check in with like maybe like a Joy Reid or Don Lemon. But I
Mhm.
have found myself kind of pulling back and tapping into other things just because when you've dealt with so much and it happens so fast, like
Yeah.
you have to say, okay, I've had my fill for the day, and just more focus on where I am in this space in life and my mental health. Not that anything's just horribly wrong, but just being more cognizant of what I'm taking in and guarding, being more diligent to guard those gates. So
Absolutely. Yeah, it's you have to be, like they say, guard your heart, guard your mind. Like that's the first form of defense. And if the enemy can attack that, then they pretty much got you in any other place. Like if they can get your heart and get your mind. So yeah, I'd be, it's interesting because when we're younger, you hear your old folks talk about that, and you're like, okay, yeah. When you get older, it has a whole different meaning, especially when you start living life and life be life, and
mhm,
then everything be everything. It's like it
yeah,
takes a different stance in your life and a different meaning when you really think about, the how easy it is to get everything if they get 1 or 2 pieces of you. So
absolutely. And in that, Derek, how have you managed, because you can have one plan and then go, "Oh, this is what I wanna do, this happened," then you may experience some disappointment, but how have you mastered realizing pivoting actually worked out in your favor? Like, when did that happen, and when did you realize that it actually worked out for your benefit?
it's interesting, like in the moment of the pivot, you don't know,
Mhm.
right? It's happened in several iterations of my life where I've had to pivot a plan that I had in place. Going to grad school and thinking that after I get this MBA from this prestigious university, that people are going to be lined up to give me a job after I have all this experience working too, right? I have the work experience, the degree, all this stuff, and not getting anything, and having to pivot to a sales role at Radio One, which was not on my vision board. Doing sales was never on my vision board, but in the process of the pivot and in the moment of it, I learned so much about myself of that I can pretty much do anything that I'm put in, one. And then two, on the back end, I learned that even being there was giving me a blueprint or insight on what it would feel like to run my own business, even before I started my business. So, like in the moment of it, it was just like, okay, okay. But then as I was in it, trusting God and again, leaning into his understanding, like, okay, your will, not my will. I'm here for a reason. Let me take a step back. So it's that maturity that starts to really kick in, that wisdom, and you really have to release it because it's like, I have no control. I need to have a paycheck. I got to make money. I got to pay my bills. So if I'm going to be here, what can I learn and what can I glean from this? And so for me, I've learned over the course of time just from that was like a major pivot early on in my career and life, where I took tools from that of how do I look at this differently? What do I need to learn from this? What do I need to take from this? I don't want to be here forever, so I need to learn the lesson. So let me tune into what the lesson is and take everything that I can get from it, and then take that on to my next. And while I was there, another pivot happened because I was there for a year. And people who work in radio, in your sales, you work on a commission base. But not fortunate, God shined his light on me. So for a whole year, I had a guarantee, meaning that I was salary. I didn't have to worry about commission at all. I could just work, learn, and that was never really heard of. Like, you usually to get 3 months, maybe 6 months if you're good. And the director of sales gave me a year. And I was like, okay, God, there's something going on. And at the end of that year, the CIAA reached out and was like, hey, we're looking for an agency, because they were going to hire me full time. I had a whole situation that happened with my former agency, a non-compete. So I couldn't take the job internally. So I had to go to Radio 1 for a year. So that was that pivot. Job was laid out, offer, start date was there, and boom, that was taken away because of non-compete. So I had to go to Radio 1, stay there for a year. And at the end of that year, the call to say, hey, we're looking for an agency instead of somebody internally. And I had been working on my business in the process and learning that. And I had to really quickly shift from sales to now entrepreneur, and pitch, and won the RFP, won the contract. And then that was another pivot, going from a sales executive to a CEO, and running a team and an agency, right? So that was another pivot. So I've just learned to know that you are ready for whatever God puts you in, one, and two, ask for help, put the right people and the right team around you, and be bold. I would rather ask for forgiveness later than to play small. So I played big. I tried new ideas. I tested the limits. I trusted that what I learned and what got me to this point wouldn't fail me. So I would need to lean in on that. So, yeah.
That's really good. Sometimes I wonder if some people are afraid to pivot because it is the unknown, and they rather stick with what is familiar, even then
Hmm.
they may not like it. Even in job situations, whether if you're a nonprofit, for profit, or private arena, corporate, what they call the golden handcuffs. They're paying you, what they're paying you, but it's depleting your mental health. The culture is toxic. You may be dealing with micro or macroaggressions, all these things, but you stay for the check, even though deep down you may have passions for other things, a passion for something else. And so at some point, it's like, when will you jump off the porch? You know, and not that we can always fully trust ourselves, because of course we are flawed, we're human, but
Hmm.
trusting God with you for that pivot, and saying, God,
Yeah.
I'm gonna put this, in your hands. But at some point, when will we unlock those golden handcuffs and make the move, and not be locked to just what's familiar and what's comfortable?
Yeah. I think from my experience, I think sometimes it's the fear of what if it does work out?
Mhm.
Like, and what if, and if it does work out, like the responsibility and the things that come with it. I think it's easy to dream and continue to chase after it, because it's like this thing that's just right there. So I'm gonna keep chasing just enough to get close, and then I'm gonna back up, chasing back up, right? Because as long as it's there and you can see it, there's if you can control whether or not how close you get to it, and be able to control that, you control it, right? So it's comfortable. The chase, the back up, the chase, the back up, the always getting close to it, the doing just enough, but never stepping into the full light of it. And I think once you step into the full light of it, it's like, okay, how do I maintain this, right? Now it's the other elements that come along with it. And I think some people are afraid of, what if I do achieve everything that I have set out, because we're always striving to get there, but then it's a whole nother mindset and a whole nother feeling once you get there. It's like, I've realized it. And so when you spend so much time chasing something, and then you realize that your positioning changes, your whole mindset changes. And so now you have to change from this person of a chaser to now this person of achievement, and now growth and development and scaling, or whatever that looks like. Or what's the next chase? And that next chase may not look like a run. It may be a walk, right? It may be something different. So it's not going to be in the same way that you got to this point. It's not going to be the same type of journey into the next point. It's going to call something different. And I think that difference in and not knowing what's on the other side, or, just being so used to people saying, keep striving, keep going. You know what I'm saying? We get caught up and comfortable in the conversation and in the journey that, the destination is a destination, but it's not, if that makes sense. Like, it's a destination, but I ain't really trying to get there. I want to, but I'm kind of comfortable just in the journey and traveling and seeing,
Is it like addictive? Like, we get addicted to the a launch or making that announcement and get
hmm
addicted to the, oh, congratulations, you know, but then realizing you have to keep this up. There's a commitment that comes along with
hmm
this. There's an accountability that comes along with this. And so then it's the next big launch, it's the next big release, and it's cyclical. But at some
hmm
point you have to stick to something. I remember starting the podcast, first of all, I didn't want to do it. I was voluntold by God. I was comfortable, playing background and doing that. And a lot of that came with not in my wheelhouse, not my skill set, a novice, new to this.
hmm
And then it's like, what am I gonna talk about? Who will be my guest? I have no technical experience. At that time, I had no AI experience, just a blank
Right.
canvas, right? And so making that announcement and hearing the congratulations, but then that imposter syndrome sat in because it's like, girl, you know nothing about podcasting. You're doing this, you know, because you're being obedient to God, but get somebody else to do it. But now when you put yourself out there, now there's an expectation, right? You do the first episode, so when's the next one? And I say that to say when we are pivoting or launching out to something new, once you put it out there, it's out there. And to recant that, like, I changed my mind. Now you're losing public trust and
hmm
accountability and credibility because, like, I thought you said you were on a podcast. Like, what happened with that? Or
What
I
happened
thought
with
you
that?
said you were gonna PR marketing. I thought you. And so I think sometimes people are afraid to pivot because there comes the commitment and the accountability and the consistency piece that is not always
hmm
considered.
Yeah, and then you become now the accountability, especially as you grow, it becomes to more than just yourself.
Mhm.
Right. So now you're accountable to the people that you're showing up for. Now you're accountable to the impact that you're creating. Right. So now people are, looking forward to what you're creating because it serves a purpose in their lives. Right. It gives them some insight or it gives them some type of wisdom or hope or desire. And so it's now like, oh, now I got to keep this thing going. I can't just now stop it because I want to stop it or I don't feel like it. I have to find the energy and I have to continue to proceed forward with it. And I think a lot of people are it's easy just to be accountable to self, and it can be heavy to be accountable to other people if you haven't prepared yourself to manage that and know how to then operate in that space and how to look at it, right? But yeah, I agree with you 100%. It's one of those things where it's just comfortable just in the cyclical nature of just that roundabout, right? My therapist always call it roundabout, when you kind of get caught in the loop of something. And so it's easy to be in the roundabout of of decision, of achievement, and stay comfortable in that because of the fear of failing, and at the root of it all is fear, right? It's the fear of failing, and fear can show up in so many different ways. Fear of not being enough, fear of somebody saying that, you don't know what you're doing and all this other stuff. And it's like fear of, like, what's the fear of that you are facing? Because it's something on the other side of that is keeping you from, stepping into what God has created for you to do. He is not the author of confusion, right? There is God, there is no fear with God, you know what I'm saying? And so I always have to remind myself that if I'm feeling fear, then God is not in the space. So I need to figure what's going on, and I'm not operating in alignment when I'm in fear, right? I can have it there, but if I let it control me, right? It's one thing to have fear and speak to it, like, okay, you're going to feel it, right? There's going to be moments, but if I allow it to consume me and control me, that's when I know it has more power. I'm giving it more power than I'm giving God in that situation. So,
Yeah, that's true. I think sometimes there is an element of fear because that forces
mm,
you to trust God in that.
mhm.
And sometimes when we don't have fear, it's because we didn't consult God and we're going
Mhm.
on our own recognizance, and so we're
That
confident.
part.
So sometimes when there's a lack of fear, that's when you need to pause and say, "Why am I not afraid?" You know?
Mhm.
And that should also flag you to, "Is this me or is this God?" And and
Yeah.
and there's a confidence, but you have to vet that, right?
Very true. Yeah, and that and I guess, what it boils down to on both sides is like you should always
Mhm,
be consulting God, right?
mhm.
Whether you're confident in the decision, whether you're in fear of the decision, God should be at the center of that decision and that feeling, right? Okay, God, am I moving in the right direction? I'm gonna take a step. All right, you ain't stopped me yet. I'm gonna keep taking a step. Okay, cool. I must be going in the right direction because you have not intervened, thrown a roadblock up. So cool. So yeah, absolutely. And then what I've noticed and what I got away from, and I talk about this like the God winks, right? The signals that you know that you're in the right track because God just he's not the author of confusion when things just kind of align so smoothly. I always know. I tell my mom there's a signature that I've recognized in my life with God that if I know He's in it and I know He's approving it, it is so smooth. And I've seen it, and I can recall. Oh my goodness, one, two. I can
Essence,
call like
as
every
essence,
moment.
you are essence, and there were some
Yes,
things, and I remember you telling me about that, about how it worked, everything worked out, and you were concerned
it
about some
just
things, and I saw the post, but when you actually, shared your journey about that and how it worked out, I was like, "That was
it
God."
was yeah, it was just like even when I got into grad school, I didn't apply to any other grad school but Carolina. 'Cause I was like, "God, that's the only school I wanna go to." And I applied, and I did early admission. I went and interviewed, told them the truth. I was just me, and I got a call a week later. It's like, "You got in." Same thing with the business. When I did the RFP, we're supposed to know in, like, 2 weeks whether we got the business. I was in there pitching with against, like, 3 or 4 of the agencies. Here's me. My agency, I just started my name, got my website, and I got a call the next day.
Wow.
The next day. It said I got
Excuse me.
and I'm like, so I was like, God, so that's his signature. That's his. So now for me, when I get into a space of confusion or uncertainty, I'm like, okay, I need to take a step back and God, I need to look for your signature on this. And I
Mhm.
know it because how it feels. And you've proven in the past that it's you when it shows up in that way. So I'm going to look for you. And when I know that, then I know I'm good. So,
Yeah, and I can agree with you on that, even with, coming to Charlotte and different things, um, doors just open quickly as far as
mhm.
residence and school and the job. It just happened like boom, boom, boom. And now, thinking on it, how is it then we're in spaces, and I'm telling on myself that I've been in the last part of this season
Mhm.
where I've been having a little tantrum in the spirit. I'm like, okay, God, we're ready to do some other things. But
Mhm.
he's like, no, wait. And so in this space, learning a lot about Camille in that
Mhm.
waiting season. And he's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, you mad? You got a little attitude? Oh, she got an attitude. Look at her. Oh, Tink got an
Oh, that's
attitude."
cute.
Yeah, that's cute. But then it's still like you have to get up and continue in what he asks you to do up front. And in those spaces and in those times, it's like a mirror and you begin to see, like you think like I'm good. And it's like, "No, you still have this thing right here. You still need to work
Yeah.
on this." And it's like, "Ugh," we in church, God, show me." And when he does, you're like, "I don't like that part of me."
Right.
And it's just a reality.
Whew, listen, I listen, friend. I tell you, I have been in. God has been working on me in more the personal space this
Mhm,
past season, and it's really been growing me to a higher level of wisdom and maturity. And for
mhm,
me, that is accountability. That is honesty, truth, and authenticity. That is just all those spaces where he is calling me to be that, but like times 10, right, across the board. And it is one of those things because sometimes it's like, I ain't got, you know what I'm saying? Like, what I gotta do that for? And it's like, no, it's that tug of war. And I this season I have really been focusing on being obedient to God and what he has been saying.
That
And
old
even
word.
listen, even in the tantrum of not like, I don't want to do that. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do it. You know what I'm saying? It's like those
Yes.
things. And I will say that even in the beginning stages of doing that, I have seen the blessing of obedience, right? Of opportunities come in like just like that. To him say, hey, I got you. I'm just gonna show you a glimpse of what obedience will get you if you listen and you trust. And so that this has been that season where I am fighting self and fighting what I desire at my own will and really sitting and releasing. And that's a pivot in of itself because, like you said, it's easy to kind of move and groove, and you be like, I got this. You get confident, cocky, and guys like, all right, bump your brakes. Like I'm giving you just enough rope, but I need you to rein it in because we got some other things to do.
Absolutely. My pastor, he's teaching a series right now on obedience and order.
Oof.
Yeah,
Those.
it's rough. And last week there were some things going on, and I was literally just about to jaywalk in the spirit and be like, you know what? I don't have to do this. And I had my plan in my brain, like I'm gonna do this, and then I'm gonna do this, and do this, and we're gonna change everything up in here. And then went to church Sunday, and pretty much he was like, "Don't do that. You about to mess
Sit down.
everything up. Just hands up. Just don't do anything. Like stop. Nobody move." And I was like, you know what? I don't like this right now, but you're right. And how God used him for that sermon, like you want to do it your way. All you have to do is make a call. You can do this, but you're about to derail everything, all your progress, what is waiting for you on the other side. And it was just like, just wait.
Yeah.
Don't do anything. Just wait because we get so frustrated and so tired and so worn out, and we're just whatever. And it's like, be still and know.
Yeah. And I'm glad you said that because when you said wait, it reminded me of what you asked earlier, when it's like, with everything going on in social and everything going on, there's this there's this quick, fast and get it done society, especially across social. So even in moments like that, I have to back away from social because I can get caught up in the momentum of what's happening there with that. Oh, you got to do this, you got to move here. And I'm like, no, because then that gets also in the way. And that makes me feel like, okay, I'm not doing enough so I need to, and it's like, no. Okay. Pause all that, take a step back, slow it down here, sit down in your chair. I got me a chair at Home Goods. Shout out to Home Goods. I sat in that thing and that thing was like butter. I was like, oh, and I told my best friend, she's on it. And I was like, I got to get this chair. And I went back to the store and they didn't have it. And I was so mad, and they had it on the side. And I was like, she was like, well, ask them. And I was like, no, I ain't gonna ask them. And she was like, if it's for you, it's for you. Ask them. And so we went back in that day. I didn't ask them. And so a week later, I went back in to do something else, and it was still there. So I asked them, I said, hey, are the things over here sold? And she was like, no, we just got them off the floor because we had to put some things out. And she's like, what are you looking at? And I told her the chair combo, and she was like, nope, that's not sold. I was like, I want it now. Put that thing in my truck, is right here. So now, because I was like, one, ask. That's the lesson in of itself. Like, don't assume, just ask. Because I was like, if it's not, then I'll know. You know what I'm saying? But I asked, it was available, and then I sit here, but I sit in it as a point, and it reminds me to just relax and release. So I get in it when I'm writing. I get in it. I had to create a space for me just to do that, so that I can remind myself to slow down, so I can have a place that makes me just woosah. Because otherwise, if I'm sitting at my desk I'm always like, this space is a go space for me, right? If I'm here, I'm gonna go. I'm over there, I'm on rest, I'm on pause. And so it helps me to kind of change the atmosphere, even if it's a few steps, to help me move into that space when I do need to slow down.
That's good. And I love talking about men and mental health. So to hear you say that, being intentional about creating that space to decompress, I think you saying that aloud that will also encourage other men if they don't have a space to do so, um, they will feel encouraged and inspired to do that. So thank you for sharing that.
You're
Um,
welcome.
Kind of pivoting just a little bit because I call you the master strategist, and y'all don't know if you love Battle of the Bands and CIAA. This is the face behind those awesome, amazing things during homecoming season, among other things. This is your guy. So one of the things I want to ask you, um, we see a lot of people doing a lot of creation on social media and being stressed about, oh, I have to make this content. But a lot of times, go back into your archives, go back into some of that old content. How can creators and innovators maximize what they already have within the social space?
I'll say it's nothing new under the sun, right? Everything that's here has already existed in one form or another. It's just evolved. And so I always say go back and look at how can you deliver something in a different way, right? It's the same thing. We're all human. We have the same emotions. We experience the same kind of ups and downs in life. We have the same kind of we have desires, and maybe for different things, but everything that exists is here. So it's really just about going back and how do you refresh something that you've already done just in a new way, right? And for an example, I'll say, from a content perspective, there's content that I repurpose all the time because I'm a different person than I was a year ago, 2 years ago when I first said it. So I might have a different perspective on it. I might have additional piece of experience to add to it, right? I might have a story with it. And so I always say, like, those things still exist and those elements are an extension of you, but you have permission to grow and share that growth. And so a lot of times that's the main thing, right? People think they have to create something new. It has to be something big and splashy. And no, it's like, no, people are simple. At the root of it, people are very simple and attention span is short. So get their attention. And a lot of times people want to know from someone that has experienced that, right? So if you are an individual that is just like, closed lip, you don't share nothing, you're not likely to make a real true connection because you're not opening up yourself and you're not sharing something that resonates with you that somebody else can say, you know what, me too. Wow, I like that person because of XYZ. So that's from a personal perspective. And the same thing with a brand. A brand is essentially, I treat a brand as a human, right? Battle of the Bands has an energy. It has a vibe. It has a personality, right?
History. It has
And
history.
history, and so again, you're sharing history, you're sharing music, you're sharing culture, you're sharing, how people feel when they've gone to the Battle of the Bands and what they want to experience while they're there and what they want to take home and share and the nostalgia of their first homecoming experience when they saw the bands or, what I'm saying? And so all that stuff is built into the ecosystem, into the fabric of just Battle of the Bands in general, HBCU marching bands. And so you just tap into that. You tap into that and you help people to relive that nostalgia and you recreate it in real time for them, whether that is in social and taking them back to a moment when they remember and then getting them excited about creating new memories with friends and family and things like that. And so again, it's really just connecting with people on a personal level. And when you understand people, it's easy to connect with them. But the thing is, people don't want to take the time to learn or to really think more deeply about the human experience. A lot of times we think we know everything. Like, oh, I know how people, but it's like, do you even know about the generation coming behind us? Right? Do you even know about your own millennials and how we're a subset, like we're a subset of
We're kind of
of the
like
millennials.
Xennials or like a little bit of both,
You know what I'm saying? Where
Yeah.
you are so it's like we're not even like they say, all Black people aren't monolith, right? So
Right.
even in our generations, like there are so many different experiences happening even within the generation that we're a part of. And so our role in business and strategy and whatever is to understand we're in the game of understanding people. That's
Mhm.
essentially what it is. And so if that is not at the forefront, it's not about selling your product or service. If you understand people, you know what to sell. and what they need it for, right? So we're in the business of understanding people and what moves people, and what connects us, and that's essentially at the baseline of it all.
Absolutely. And storytelling and creating spaces for people to
Hmm.
tell their stories and be heard. And
Yes.
when you mentioned history, I thought about something I saw yesterday on TikTok, because there is such a rich cultural significance behind the bands with
Hmm.
HBCU culture. And I saw somewhere in Asia, and they had appropriated the style, marching style of the band. Like, and I was reading the comments, and a lot of people were upset, and then there were some comments that were like, "We impact everything," and some people like, "See, we can't have anything." But I feel like, um, we influence the world, right? We are the pulse of
Hmm.
humanity, and I think with social media, it has exposed other people, and
Yeah.
now parts of us are being appropriated without the understanding. Like, for me being Greek, we see a lot of people appropriating D9 culture
Right.
without understanding the why of it all, which that
Hmm.
infuriates me. But just because you see it on social media, "Oh, I can just grab this and I can grab that and it looks cool," but really
Hmm.
understanding the heart of, although I went to a PWI, I have love for HBCU culture because it's still a part
Hmm.
of me, as a Black person in America, and I still have impact, I feel the impact of it, and so will always support it
Yeah.
100%. But it just, I feel that if we're gonna have these conversations, then we need to kind of pull back and look at it and ask the
Hmm.
question, why is our history and culture, whether if it's D9 or HBC band or schools, period, that level of appropriation, and then how does that play out in social media when we're looking at strategy and
Hmm.
marketing? And it's ours, and we do understand some people admire it, but that we're not a trend, we're not a fad.
Right.
We're not, "Oh, it's just the algorithm." This is who we are as a people. So can you kind of
Hmm.
expand or expound on, because you are the face behind these major events, when
Hmm.
now we're getting into marketing and contracts and deals and corporations. I saw Mayor Andre yesterday, and he said something. He was speaking to companies and organizations there in Atlanta, and he said, if we can't call on you to address social issues, don't call on me when you need something."
Hmm. Yeah. It's I'm glad you brought that up because I think it's the difference in being the originator and the trailblazer versus being a follower, right? And so for Battle of the Bands, because they one respect the HBCU bands, respect the band directors, the institution, what it means, the importance of what it creates, right? For the band members that go on to be leaders, that go on to work, and what they pass down. And so for the National Battle of the Bands has always been about, arts, music, arts, and education, scholarship dollars, exposure of HBCU marching bands so they can get more opportunities and more exposure to tell their history and tell their stories. And so I always say if you anchor yourself in respecting and amplifying what's true, right? Paying homage, you'll never lose, right? You'll never lose. You'll always be the ones that people respect, and you'll get so much further because if you call on certain band directors or things of that nature, they respect you because you've respected them, right? And so that's the same thing when I think about culture and how there's people that appropriate certain things. It's like appropriation is only going to get you so far. It might get you a couple likes or something here, but eventually in those comments you're going to get it, right? Because people know. And so I always say, pay homage, give respect, give credit where credit. That it takes nothing from you to give credit to someone that started it, right?
Not you discovering it.
Yeah, not you act like you discovered something that was here way before you were here. Pay homage, and what
Mhm.
that does is that will get you further. That will get you respect from the community, respect from the individuals or whoever, and then people would then respect you in the comments, right, in other places. And so people think like, oh, I don't want to pay homage, I just want to take and just use it and try to feel like I can remix it. And it's like, no, people know what's real and what's fake, right? And so that would be my thing. Always be authentic, always pay homage and respect. Even when you think about Black culture and rap artists and things of that nature, the ones that get think about Cardi B. She has paid homage to every female rapper,
Yeah.
anyone. She's always been humble about that. And look at where she is career wise, and she's still doing it, right?
Yeah.
And so I always tell people it's nothing to give homage and say thank you, because especially if you didn't create it and you get to benefit from it and you get to grow from it and learn from it, and someone paved the way, pay homage, right? And pay respect. It doesn't mean that you're weak or you're less than. It shows that you actually have strength and that you have some sort of character, and that you're able to give credit where credit is due, honor that, and then be able to take that and create another opportunity for future generations to now experience something that you were able to experience in your coming up. And so I would say that is consistent across brands. Even what you said, the mayor was saying, it's like you have to respect the struggle, the journey, the history of what it took to get here. Social justice has always been a part of the Black story, right? And Black and brown and across the board, right? And so if you want to if you want us to spend our money and you want to support from us, then where's your skin in the game when it comes to supporting and helping us when that time comes, right? And it all goes back to paying respect and homage. It doesn't take anything away from you to say, hey, that's wrong, and we support them. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. As we get in, and I know we're beginning summer, but this is actually like pre-season. This is the planting season for
hmm
schools because, July, boom, August, it's homecoming season. And this is just my personal question. So, have you all thought about going into this next season when you're making your rounds with the school, maybe with social media, doing maybe like a 2 or 3 minute mini doc on
hmm
social media, highlighting the band, the history behind the band, to say, oh, like, FAMU found it, the year, and
hmm
kinda give some context to that, and then show the band as a
hmm
highlight, and maybe even collecting all
hmm
of that content to create maybe like a small documentary for like YouTube or something, because
hmm
I haven't seen it on Netflix, but I really feel like HBCU bands needs their own
hmm
docuseries on social media or even somewhere like Netflix or another streaming platform.
hmm
I know with my sorority, Apple TV, they did a documentary on Sigma Gamma Rho, which was dope,
hmm
and
Yeah.
a lot of people were not aware of that. But I just see like education
hmm
showing Howard or Fisk,
Yeah.
Marching 100, and the sonic boom of Jackson State. Like, we need
Yeah.
to have these stories told, and maybe
hmm
highlighting some of those notable directors, even like a series on the classics, Magic,
Yeah.
Circle City Classic and Mayo
hmm
Classic, like all these different classics,
Yeah.
Southern Heritage Classic, that's one of the biggest ones, right? And we could go on, but I just feel like there should be something like a capsule, so to
hmm
honor those that have gone ahead, those right now, but even to educate the ones, coming behind us so they can see
hmm
you don't just take this, you don't just appropriate this.
Right.
This is, sacred history, and this is why. And
hmm
so I just wondered, have you all thought about that?
Well, I'm glad you asked. If you go to Tubi right now and Amazon, you can catch the film Pepsi National Ballad, the band's uh, what's it called? Oh, I just forgot the name of it. But we have a film on YouTube, right? Not on YouTube, on Tubi and on Prime, and it's celebrating champions of culture. So that was our 10-year anniversary. So the National Battle Bands actually has 6 films based off of the history, like different ones highlights different things. Celebrating Champions of Culture was our 10-year anniversary of the event, and so it highlighted, of course, the band, some of the band members, the band directors being interviewed, but then we have a series of 6 films, and they all cover different aspects of it. One is the history from the beginning all the way into now. The one that is actually on HBCU Go, that we're streaming on HBCU Go, and that was out in Black History Month, was the Best of the Battles, where we went back and showed like some of the top, performances from the 15 years that we've had that event, right? But if you go to National Battle Bands on YouTube, the first, I think, 3 films are on our YouTube page. And so you can watch those at about an hour kind of like docuseries. The first one actually was nominated for the American Black Film Festival in Miami for a documentary a couple years ago. But those 3 are there. We have one that is on Tubi and Prime right now, and then HBCU Go is airing the current one that we did for this year throughout the month. The schedule's on nationalbands.com/films. You can see the schedule there, and also the information about the Amazon and the Tubi one. But yeah, that's one of the tenets, right? Is to amplify the visibility and impact of National Battle Bands, of HBCU marching bands, and so they do that through the film. So it's like, hey, we're creating this event, then we're going to take this opportunity to share the history, the storytelling, amplify, the behind the scenes, the preparation, the work, the dedication that these students go to, and what goes behind the scenes with it. And so those are definitely, I'm glad you asked. Those are definitely out there, and they're working to get all of them up and out. And then we try to do that each and every year. We try to film and create other content around it. But I do like, and then break pieces up from little mini micro series. But I do like the point that, and I think they already started, but to be, more specific around highlighting each, a little like history piece of each of the bands. So I think that could be something that the production team can, start to work on, and we can kind of, because we're building out the YouTube page even more to have more of that, to be a hub where you come for HBCU band history, culture, community, not just the performances, but all the other things around it as well. So
Let me know, because I would love to promote that. And I think even with this weekend going into Juneteenth, that would be a great campaign to run. And also, June is Black Music Month.
Music Month.
So I think, yes, I think that would be a good thing to push, because I wasn't even aware that those resources were available. So I definitely would be interested in that. So
I'll definitely share it. Yeah, they're great. They're really good. Like, and it's funny because I was in one of them. We're in the beginning stage, because we as a team, we get together and we at the beginning of the year go through the process of like, well, what bands are going to be selected this year, and there's like certain criteria and things of that nature. So you kind of see the team in the war room, kind of preparing and things of that nature. In one of the films, I think it was like the third one. I think it's called like Preparing to Battle, or something for the battle. But yeah, it's definitely. I've always said this: like, if I'm going to be working hard, I always want my work to go towards something that's meaningful and impactful. I've always said that. And so for me, when I started, my company, I was like, that's going to be the tenet of it. So if I'm going to do work, it's not just to chase a dollar or a check. Yeah, you want to get paid. But for me, it's about legacy and impact, and, leaving something and being proud of the work that you're putting in. Because if I'm going to sacrifice time and energy and things of that nature, I want it to be worthwhile. I want it to be meaningful. And I can definitely say what I've done in my career thus far has definitely been meaningful, impactful. So.
yeah, that is so cool. And I fan out a little bit, especially during homecoming season, because I see the social media posts and you're at the different fields, and I'm always in the comments. But in my mind, I'm like, I know him. That's my friend. But it's just so cool to see you in those spaces and just continue to curate spaces for us to express ourselves in the creative nature. And I just think like what you're doing is just absolutely amazing. So
No, I appreciate it. And shout out, it takes a village, and, we have an amazing team, and I'm grateful for, the trust that they put in me to even be a part of it, and for this long, right? And I always talk about relationships matter. Like, I've known, they're actually a client. So they're actually a client, but I operate more as an internal team, as a part of it, which I love even the more. But I've known them since I started my career. like we worked on two opposite sides. Like they worked for one company that did this. I worked for the agency that represented CIAA, and we worked together in that season of both of our lives where they were running, that part, I was running this. We had to work together collaboratively on a lot of different things. And then, life happened and they branched out to start their business. I started mine, but we stayed connected, and it was like, yo, hey, I'm working on this. Hey, can you help run this? Yeah, I can run this. And it just and we kept, so you build that relationship, that rapport, and you're able to grow together. And so now as things have grown, I've grown with them as well and continue to be a part of, the vision that they have and being able to, support them and bringing it to life. So.
Absolutely. And so when CIAA was at the Epic Center, was here,
Mhm.
I don't think the city of Charlotte really realized what they had until they relocated. And now, you know, because of where I am on the professional
Mhm.
side, I hear little rumblings of, oh man, Black people spend money. Oh man, it's like, yeah. And so now the Epic Center has become a cautionary tale on social media of, I heard this place used to be so amazing back in the day,
Listen,
and you see people and now
listen,
they're
I
in
could,
the process of
mm,
attempting to rebrand, and it's calling it the Queen City Center or something, but it's like a ghost, and they are trying to slowly revive it, but it is
yeah.
pitiful. Because I remember um, when I moved here, it was, like, the last one, and then COVID
Mhm.
hit, but it was just, like, one of those western towns, tumbleweeds. It is so pitiful,
It's,
and they are
you know,
struggling to
it was funny because when I first started working with the CIAA, it was still in Raleigh. It was the last year in Raleigh, and it was about to move to Charlotte. And so I was a part of the team that came up with the tagline and all the marketing for the first year in Charlotte, which was called Get Down Uptown, because we were like, oh, it's uptown, it's walkable, it's hotels. People have never experienced this before. You got the arena right there. And they were in the process of that time of building the epicenter. Like Epicenter wasn't done yet. They were in the process, and they were like, "Oh, when this comes, it's gonna make it even better because we have restaurants, do day parties and things here." And I've been to several good day parties there, and we even hosted a party there. But it was like, but the thing about it is, and I always say this, it's like we were loud and proud about the impact that we made in Charlotte. I think at the peak, we generated like 50 million in economic impact. We were always between, like, I think when we first got to that first year, it was like 36 or something of that nature. But anyway, we're always in between the threshold of 30 up to the highest was $50 million in economic impact to the city of Charlotte for that weekend. And the number of jobs that it created and opportunities that it brought for small businesses to do business with the CIAA and things of that nature, right? We worked across every department. We used to have local organizing committee meetings where we worked across every department in the city of Charlotte because it took everybody to make this event go. So it was, I always say this, it was no secret, the impact and things of that nature. It was one of those things where you get comfortable. And when people are saying like, ouch, that hurts. Oh, you'll be okay. Put a band-aid on it. Like you don't really take the concerns of someone seriously when you think like, oh, well, you look at the impact you have. You can't have this nowhere else. You can't, what I'm saying? Like, and I'm not saying that was a thought, but for some people, it's easy to get caught up, and this kind of can drill down to like more personal. If people don't think you have anywhere else to go, then they're not going to worry about your pain, right? They're not going to worry
like a
about,
relationship, you take it
this,
for
like a
granted.
relationship. Yeah. Take it for granted. And so, I think, shout out to, Commissioner Parker. She had a vision, and I know we always talked about, even like, because the city has to bid for it, like every 3 years, they have to bid for the CIAA, right? Typically every 3 years, cities can get a chance to put in a bid, and the CIAA puts out RFP. Here's what we're looking for. Here's what we need. Here's what we're trying to create. Here's where we want support at, because everything goes back to student athletes and scholarships at the end of the day. That's why the tournament exists, to amplify student athletes. The parties and everything else is just icing on the cake. But at the end of the day, the monies that are created and generated and tickets being sold all goes back to student athletes. And so that's what the commissioner is focused on. And so if the city is not creating a space and opportunity where you amplify those things, where you provide, rates that are easy for fans to come and want to buy tickets to go to. You don't take up hotel rates. You help control the hotel rates, right? You help control the footprint of what people can do within the footprint of where the games are. So you don't have unsanctioned parties making thousands and $100,000 and then doing something negative and then having a backlash from CIAA when CIAA didn't have nothing to do with it. We dealt with a
The
lot of
scalping is
that.
real too.
The scalping. So I used to have to do a lot of crisis management and we used to always, I remember used to always Saturday night after the game's over, we used to always be praying, okay, next morning, please don't let there be no incident in no club or nothing like that, because the narrative was CIAA, it's like it had nothing to do with that. So we would have to go in and do damage control and say, hey, our events ended when the game ended. Anything after that is something, and we would always share like, hey, we need support getting control of these unsanctioned parties. And it never really happened per se. So
Because on
I
the
know
outside looking
Baltimore,
in, it's just that's
it's
y'all.
just
It's
also,
and
yes,
you know what
it's
I mean by
us.
that. You know
Yeah,
what I mean
yeah.
by that. They put
It's
us under
yeah.
the same umbrella, but
Yeah, and I used to see the comments. I used to see the comments and some of like, when there would be a news report or a story, and I used to see the comments from citizens, saying something, negative about Black people and things like that.
Mhm.
And it's like, so, in Baltimore has done an amazing job of doing the things that CIAA needed to do to protect the footprint. So
Yeah.
I believe within the footprint of the CIAA, if you want to have a party or something of that nature, you have to go through certain channels, and the money goes to CIAA for our scholarships, right? You have to go through. And so it's almost like, just like the NBA All-Star game or the Super Bowl, there's a footprint around. And that's what the
Yeah.
CIAA was asking for. And so it's like, an event of that magnitude. And we used to do this chart that shows the impact of CIAA, our economic impact, and how it measured up to other major sporting events. The CIAA was always in the top 5, 6 of the
Wow.
major sporting events based on the numbers that we brought in, right? And so, so it's like put some respect on the name, and
Yeah.
things like that, or you lose it. It's just like a relationship. If you don't treat the person in your life with respect and dignity and the value that they have and that they bring, then they're going to find it somewhere else. Period.
Absolutely. And I know with like Mayor Lyles here, her last day is the 30th of this month. She's
I
retiring.
heard.
And but then when you have someone more from our generation, like Mayor Scott, there
Mm-hmm.
in Baltimore, or Governor Moore, they're in
Mm-hmm.
Baltimore, and you have D9 influence because Governor Moore is D9, and then you have Mayor Scott, right? And so I feel that Baltimore and CIAA is flourishing better because those in place, they
Mm-hmm.
understand the pulse of our generation. They're more in tune with what's happening in the conversation with our generation, and their ability to relate and communicate vertically and
Mm-hmm.
horizontally. Their style is a little different, and that's why, in Baltimore, you've seen a 60% decrease in crime in Baltimore, and for
Mm-hmm.
CIAA to thrive there because of the culture and those in
Yeah.
leadership in those spaces. So those things matter. That type of representation in leadership matters, and
Yes.
because historically Baltimore is Chocolate City, I feel like it's in a safer hub. Not to say that money wasn't made here in Charlotte, but there's still some narratives here and tones here that may not always be um fluid verse or even welcoming and inclusive in certain spaces, and
Mm-hmm.
still having to kind of push through, cross some lines.
Yeah. And like I say, leadership matters. Understanding and vision matters, right? You have to,
Mhm.
and you have to want, you need a partner that is going to fight with you, not against you, right?
Right.
And like Baltimore has fought for CIAA with CIAA in the positive way of creating the space and understanding what's needed. And like you said, when you have an understanding, when you see a vision and you know the importance and the impact, then let's help create, let's maximize it. And you could do more together. And that's what they've done. Like
Mhm.
anytime anytime a CIAA come in, even beforehand, like it rolls out the red carpet, like from the airport all the way down to the convention center to, the arena where the game is being played. Like even outside of season, like, they're always there. They go up there for their meetings and things of that nature. Baltimore is always open the door, and they have not stopped doing what they did to get, like they say, what you did to get me, you gotta do to keep me. and And listen to
They
those people.
understand the
When you
assignment.
listen, they understand the assignment, and they have not stopped doing what they did in the beginning. If not, they've amplified it and done more, right? And so that's why this past year, like when there was up for bid, right? Like Charlotte had put their bid in. I think it was down to Charlotte and Baltimore, I believe, when they went through all the bids in the cities that were trying to bid to get CIAA. And again, Baltimore won it again, And it just goes to show like they are serious and they're committed to this relationship. And we used to always say, people are like, well, why is it going to Baltimore? Well, you got to remember CIAA's history. It's the oldest African American athletic conference in the country, right, in the world. And some of the founding members are the up north school, Howard,
It's home
Morgan,
turf.
like it's
Yeah.
home turf. Like, so you have a
Yes.
huge alumni base, even up the East Coast. You have
Yes.
Lincoln, and Lincoln is in the
Howard.
CIAA now, right? Howard,
Yes.
and so they always, the mantra is CIAA for life. So it doesn't matter what schools are currently in the CIAA now, right? It's really about the footprint that the CIAA created from 1912 all the way up to today, right? And that becomes a part of why CIAA is so successful, because it doesn't matter what HBCU you went to, even if they weren't in the CIAA, right? It's CIAA for life, the culture, the community, it's something for everybody to be a part of. So
Love
yeah.
it. Just one more thing.
Before we wrap up, what are your key takeaways from our conversation, and where can our listeners find you on social media?
So key takeaway, I would say for me is create space and time for yourself, right? Always make sure that you are filled first. Because it's easy to pour out for everybody else, and then you'll look up and then you don't have what you need for you. So make sure you create space and time for yourself, and be honest with yourself, right? Like don't lie to yourself. If you're gonna lie to anybody else, don't if you don't lie at all, but especially don't lie to yourself. Be honest with yourself, because you are the closest and the best relationship you're going to have. So always be honest with yourself, even when it hurts, even when it's uncomfortable, and keep the right tribe around you that's going to be honest with you too, not going to be yes people, because they'll help keep you focused in and just be obedient, like we talked about, obedience in order in that regard. But life is life. I always say this, and I'll leave this: life. There's no blueprint. We're all doing life for the very first time. And so there is no blueprint on how to get it done this way or that way. We got wisdom from our elders, but it's up to us to take that wisdom, that information, and chart our course, but still, again, keep the right tribe around you. Ask questions when you need to. Don't be afraid to ask for help. And it's going to be okay. If you make a wrong step, you can make another step in the right direction, right? One wrong step in one wrong direction doesn't mean you can't make a right step in the right direction the next step. So
Absolutely. And do you have any other projects, books, events that we need to keep an eye out for? Like, what's coming up? What's going on?
Orange Blossom Classic is coming up. So that's going to be in Miami Gardens, Labor Day weekend, September 6th. So South Carolina State versus FAMU. So overseeing all the marketing and branding for that. And so about to make some announcements coming up with that, but tickets are on sale. So I'll be down in Miami Gardens for that Labor Day weekend. And then we have some announcements for Battle of Bands coming up this month, towards the end of this month, and in August. So it's some things. So 2027 is going to be popping. It's going to be popping. But excited there. And then personally, I am working on my Rules of Frost, and my restarting my newsletter on LinkedIn, and then I still bought the domain and stuff for Convos and Collabs. So just want to figure out how I'm going to reintroduce that back. But I am working on putting more energy and time into things that I want to do, and things that I want to bring back to life in those ways. So.
Absolutely. And as far as with the Orange Blossom Classic, if there's anything that the Speaker Podcast can do to help promote that, let us know. I would love to get an
Awesome.
exclusive interview as we get closer to that for those events. I think that would be a great thing to do. And
Awesome.
I love supporting your projects, and a lot of my guests, we do our best to try to support. Can't be everywhere every
time,
it's only
right?
one of me. But
Yeah.
anything I can do on this end, like, hey, can you share this with your audience? Absolutely no problem.
I appreciate it. I'll definitely share since we talked about it. They might be looking for it, so I'll definitely share. But it hits different. It's going to be a good weekend. I would say it's the first homecoming of the year, so it gives you a little taste of homecoming HBCU, and then you can go to your homecoming when you see when the date's already out there. So that'll be fun. But yeah, it's good. It's good, and I'm excited for it. So
Alrighty. Well, everyone, I hope that you got something from this episode. Um, we will not be airing next week because my birthday is Monday. So I will not I
turn it
will
up.
not be doing the speaker podcast next week. However, replays are available across all your streaming platforms. Grab one and tune in. You all be safe this Juneteenth weekend. And then 2 weeks after that, I think it's what, 4th of July. So just a lot of holiday celebrations and travel. Please be safe out there. And with that being said, y'all be blessed, be safe. Good night. Bye-bye.
Wow, what a conversation. I hope you got something from tonight's episode. If you missed tonight's convo, wow, what a conversation. I hope you got something from tonight's episode. If you missed tonight's convo, no worries. Just catch the replay on YouTube and be sure to like, share, and subscribe.
Keep the SpeakHer Podcast ad-free. Scan the QR code and buy me a coffee. Your support keeps us ad-free as we continue to bring you conversations impacting the community and the culture.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the SpeakHer Podcast. Be sure to follow Camille on Instagram at camille.essick, Facebook at the SpeakHer Podcast, or www.camilleessick.com.
Listen, love the Speak Podcast. The feeling when you're here. There's a vibe in your ear.